Welcome back to our second presentation, Scaling E-Commerce at LIDL Challenges and Challenges in Development and Deployment of the Discount E-Commerce. Andreas Lehr and Tim Döppner are our presentators from LIDL, from the LIDL Stiftung, and a warm welcome for them both. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. So, well, based on the fact that we are a small group of people today, you're really welcome to ask any questions if you have one. Just write when you're at the slides. So do not wait for the end of the presentation. Just raise your hand and ask, okay? So we are here today to give you some insights into LIDL e-commerce. So maybe you're familiar with it, but well, based on my experience, only 50% of the people already know LIDL e-commerce. All the guys know LIDL, but LIDL e-commerce is something different. And especially Andreas and me, we want to take you to a journey, what we have learned in the last years, to give some insights into this from a technical perspective, okay? So this is our agenda for today. I don't want to stick to this too long. It's more about, well, getting a short introduction to us, about what we are doing, and at the end about some outlooks into the future. Well, what is LIDL e-commerce International about? If we talk about this, we are talking about a department within LIDL which is responsible for all kinds of digital solutions. Yeah? So a few months ago, we were already talking about even social media channels and things like this. This is now part of a different department, but we are still responsible for all e-commerce websites, which means online shops, job pages, mobile apps, and all these things. Also, some applications in our stores, so we are working together with a brick-and-mortar business. We are about 500 people, which is an own organization beside the one which is built for the LIDL brick-and-mortar business. Yeah? So we have the same departments like marketing, IT, logistics, but we are doing different stuff. We're using different technologies, and we are doing it with different processes. Regarding the logistics, for example, we have 2,000 people, roundabout, working in our warehouses. Different warehouse locations, spread whole across Germany, but also in an international context. So we have warehouses in Spain, in Czech, in the Netherlands, for example. So we are preparing our business department and all the structure we need to spread our business to whole Europe. The headquarters is in Neckarsulm. Well, for sure, well, but there are a lot of other locations which are more attractive for IT people than Neckarsulm. And this is something we have to deal with, and this is one of our challenges we have. That's why we spread to other locations. Berlin, for example, this is one of the, well, of the most important cities if we talk about startup scene and things like this. But we're talking also about totally different technologies. What the hell are we doing? Andreas and me.
So, as you heard already, my name is Andreas Lehr, and I'm the IT team lead in the infrastructure department. And also the IT architect of the LIDL e-commerce. I'm 36 years old now, and I've joined LIDL e-commerce in 2012. Before that, I studied over here in Moosbach and was at a larger internet company in Karlsruhe, and then joined kind of a startup of Daimler, and then I joined LIDL, and I'm very happy with that. So I have an technology background, clearly, and a lot of passion for all the e-commerce and startup things. And that's why I joined, and yeah, makes a lot of fun.
So my name is Tim Döppner. I'm responsible for the shop system team, which is some team well built of application developers, testers, requirement engineers, business analysts, call them however you like it. And well, at the end, I'm with LIDL since 2009, which is now 7.5, 8 years now. It was not really the beginning of LIDL e-commerce, but it was close to. I'm 38 years old right now. I'm originally from Essen, which is, well, 300, 400 kilometers away from here. But at the end, well, I stay here because, well, the work makes a lot of fun, as Andreas mentioned. And we built up something in the past which is really interesting, and I want to be part of it in the future as well. A few words to me. So I'm interested in getting things done. This is something which was already mentioned by the Kaufland colleagues. Well, it's about doing things, yeah? Not waiting about management decisions or whatever. So whenever I have the chance to do it, I do it. Okay? And this is something which is also a characteristic for Lidl e-commerce. We do not always try to do big things. We try to do the smaller things, but we try to do it good. We are talking, or today, you are talking, if you have some questions, with guys who are also representing Lidl in the internet. So, for example, Andreas is here mentioned on our job page for the digital transformation, and this is something where he stands for. But the same for all the other colleagues here. So this is also something where you have the chance, the ability to involve yourself into what Lidl e-commerce is doing. And this is totally different than other companies doing it. What have we learned in the last years? So in 2006, Lidl e-commerce was founded as Schwarz e-commerce. So the idea was to get responsibility for all e-commerce stuff which is done in the Schwarz group, which also means Kaufland. So, well, if this was still the case today, so the colleagues from the Kaufland OCE wouldn't exist, but as you have already seen, there was something in the meantime. So we split it up, the responsibility between Lidl and Kaufland, and so both can focus on one brand and doing stuff differently, as, well, even the brick-and-mortar business is differently for Kaufland and Lidl. Based on the idea, so back to this, in 2006, there was a team of 5 people from the marketing department, and they started with Lidl Travel, Lidl Flowers, and Lidl Photos. This is a business we are doing today as well, so we stick to this. But in 2008, we also started with the first online shop from Lidl. It was, well, in the old days, it was called Lidl-shop.de, and this URL is still valid. But in the meantime, we also take over the responsibility for Lidl.de. What does it mean for us? Well, at the end, a lot of traffic, a lot of unique visitors, a lot of awareness. And so, based on this, we have the ability to grow up to the online shop we are today. In 2010, we started building a new technology infrastructure, but not only from the technology perspective. So this was based on the introduction of SAP and different other components, for example, a risk management system, but also for our operational teams, like, well, we were starting to implement our first warehouses. The first one was in Kremmen, which is close to Berlin. And now, today, we're managing 7 or 8 data warehouses. I'm not really sure, so we try to grow every year by 2 or 3 of them. And this is really a challenging aspect for us. Well, in 2013, we started with the Lidl apps, or, well, to do it the professional way. We had a Lidl app before, which was focused on Lidl iOS. But in 2013, we decided to build up a new infrastructure, to set up also an app for Android platform and to make it more flexible, even to prepare it for future platforms as well. Well, for sure, Windows Phone is also one which is supported right now, but this is on our timeline later. The Android app, together with the iOS app, was provided to 26 countries in 2013. So we were the first time covering the whole Lidl e-commerce, let's call it empire, with all the different countries. So every country where we have a store, there was also the mobile app, which was part of our company, which was provided from the Lidl e-commerce to all these countries. Well, in 2014, there was a decision from the top management to focus on bringing the online business to all countries. So not only mobile apps, but also online shops. In 2015, we were following up with the Windows application. Well, you might now wondering why we've done this, but our focus is not Germany anymore. We are talking about other countries as well. And there are some of them where Windows Phone has 10 or 15% market share. Yeah, totally different than in Germany. Who has a Windows Phone? Someone? Okay, one. Okay, but Android? Well, that's very obvious why we started with Android before. Well, in 2016, we started with our online business in Netherlands and Belgium. These were the first two countries where we spread to. So we are doing this business today. We are stabilizing it. But at the end, the challenge is still to provide an online shop to 23, 24 other countries as well. And this is what we try to prepare for. Today, if we talk about our business, we take care of about 12 million unique visitors a month. Does any one of you has his own website, which is, well, more than 10, 20 people? Someone? Working for a non-profit organization, whatever? Well, so at the end, it's a challenging task. For 10, 20 people, it's really easy. But if we talk about 12 million unique visitors a month, you have to take care of the performance of the website, and you have to do some stuff here. 100,000 plus articles at sale. Well, that's not Amazon, for sure. But it's much more than our brick-and-mortar business offers to the customer. So the normal store has up to 2,000 or 3,000 items. Okay? Well, as I mentioned, in 2006, we also started with LIDL Travel. We are serving 1 million, around about 1 million customers a year. Did you expect this? I think no.
And when we talk about availability of our website, so we often reach more than 99.95% of availability overall websites. On LIDL.de, it's a lot more than that, so we are around 99.99, so that's basically 100%. You'd never reach the 100% because you already have some issues anywhere, and it's a really hard task. Every time we run TV spots, and sometimes they also run in parallel, so that's a big challenge for us. Okay. Scaling infrastructure. In 2012, we were about 6 or 7 people in the IT administration infrastructure team, and nowadays we are 20, so that's a little bit more than double the IT infrastructure department. But when you see the number of virtual machines, it's nearly 10 times the amount we have been 5 years ago. And also the monitored services we see over here. I think in 2012 we had around 600 or 700 services in our monitoring system, and now it's around 13,000 items we monitor every day, every minute, and we also give alarms to the on-call guy, and it's a nice task for all of us. So when we talk about scaling infrastructure, we're talking about different topics, and one of the more or less historical ones is virtualization, and it's a quite often used technology. People already use it on their desktop with Vagrant boxes or something like that. So that's where you have a virtual machine inside your physical computer. And in the data center, we're making good use of virtualization, because we get the physical machines working at capacity, which is quite hard now, because we have a lot of CPU cores, and that wasn't the case 10 years ago, where you had 1 or 2 cores, and now you get 20 or 30 cores in a server machine, and it's quite cheap. So you need to take care to make a good to make them working at capacity, so that you have a good balance of your costs and operating costs. We also do use overcommitment if it's possible. So that's some of the benefits of virtualization. You can deploy faster. Obviously, that's a lot more easier to scale up virtual machines than to put machines in the data center and put cables on them. So if you have the physical machine capacity, you can quickly scale out to 10, 20 or more virtual machines. You get high availability out of the box. Okay, there's one question. 1 second. I'll come with the microphone.
So what do you mean with overcommitment?
Overcommitment? Yeah, we are using a lot of Java technology, and I'm not sure if you learn this in university, but Java takes a lot of memory, usually.
That's not true.
That's our usual clash. Yeah. If, for example, you have a physical machine, and a typical machine we nowadays insert in the data center for virtualization has around 1 terabyte of memory, and you can deploy a lot more machines on that than just using the 1 terabyte of memory, because not every machine needs the same amount of memory in the same second. So you can deploy 1.2 or 1.5 terabytes of memory, and then the machines and the virtualization layer balances this. So that's what you call overcommitment. So you can take a lot more memory out and commit it to the machines, but you don't have it in reality because you don't use it at the same time. So one time the SAP system uses a lot more memory, next minute some other systems, and so everything gets balanced, and that's basically overcommitment.
Well, in the real world, there's also a parameter for Linux kernels, for example, where you can configure it. So you can also use it as an end user on your system if you're using Linux. But if you're doing this and the system needs more memory than physically is available, then it will crash as one of your applications randomly. Yeah? So that's not a nice effect, but well, we run into this, so that's why I can talk about it.
Yeah. You need to take care of it, and you need to monitor it, because you need to be very careful with that. We get a high availability out of the box with virtualization. You can basically switch the machines from one data center to another, and all the customers and the developers, they even recognize that you're shutting one data center down. So this would be the optimal world. And you also have a lot of administrative benefits. You can take snapshots and make a rollback onto the snapshot. So that's not possible with a physical machine. So what's next? CDN. Do you know what a content delivery network is? Anybody? Okay. So we're heavily using CDNs. Basically, you can imagine, you talk about an edge node. This is, maybe you have a Kabel BW or Unity Media internet connection, and you're sitting in, let's say, in Heilbronn, and you're surfing at LIDL. So maybe the fastest way, our data centers are in Frankfurt, is the direct one. But when you're on holiday, for example, in Spain, and you received a newsletter and you want to shop the new gardening stuff on LIDL, so you'll basically get routed to an edge route near you, maybe in Madrid or in Barcelona, where you get the data a lot more quicker than getting it from Frankfurt in Germany. That doesn't say that the connection in Frankfurt is slow, but it's a lot faster for the Spanish telecom than to handle the data at the nearest point to you. So, and that's basically what you do with a CDN. So to minimize the network hops to get the data to you. And we also use it for DDoS protection. That's when the bad guys are coming. So, and that's something we usually have also every day when they're trying to overload your website with bad traffic or with rubbish code, and it's DNS amplification attacks and something like that. So you need protection for that, because you want to have the good guys, the customers also on your side. And that's what we're using our CDN for. Currently, we're surfing around 200 terabytes per month through our CDN. That's quite a lot. If you take into account that the largest object we are delivering is an image file with around 500-600 kilobytes. So we're not delivering video content, we're not delivering MP3 files, we're not delivering PDFs or stuff like that with 50, 60, 100 megabytes. So we're delivering images and smaller files than that. So 200 terabytes is quite a lot of network traffic. We achieve a caching rate of 90%. So 90% of the traffic our customers create never reaches our data center. And that's quite nice for us in this case. When you're scaling out infrastructure, you need to talk about automation. The deployment of servers and network nodes, you need to automate that so that you don't have to do reoccurring tasks manually. So that's something you want to automate, and that's what we're doing. You need to take care of your configuration management so that when I'm changing a configuration, my colleague also has the recent configuration. So if he does a change, he won't roll back my change. And that's what you're basically doing as developer with your Git. We are also doing in infrastructure or with infrastructure configuration. Patch management is very important. I'm not sure if you heard of WannaCry at the weekend. It was a ransomware attack on all the Windows machines. So Deutsche Bahn and a lot of hospitals had a lot of problems with their Windows infrastructure because they didn't patch their servers, and now they have to pay some bitcoins to get their data back because it's encrypted. And yeah, that's something you should never forget, patch management. So I think the WannaCry attack was fixed by Microsoft in March. So the companies would have time for about 2 months to fix the issue, and they didn't do it. And that's something you also want to have automated so that you don't have to take care about that. So automate the patch management on Windows and Linux, because on Linux you need to patch also. So and automation helps you in a quick scale out of your infrastructure. Cloud, that's something you hear every day and we're using every day. If you're using Facebook or if you're using Twitter and Google, and everything is in the cloud. So Amazon Web Services is something Amazon makes a good amount of money with it. So and all the top management guys, they always ask, hey, shouldn't we go into the cloud? And what about this cloud thing? And what is the cloud really about? So yeah, there's even possibilities for a quicker scale out with cloud technologies, because you don't have to put in physical computers. Of course, someone else has to do it, but you're basically renting the stuff. There are lots of interesting technologies available. For example, from Amazon, you now can, I think they have around 10 AI services around Alexa and all the stuff, and also facial recognition technology. You can just rent and pay on per use basis or per minute of usage, and that's quite interesting. But there are also some negative things about the cloud. So a term you often find when you're Googling about cloud is the cloud is just someone else's computer. So the problems are still there. I talked about earlier, so patching and security issues. Someone else has to take care of it. So just when you use the cloud, these problems won't go away. So you have to take care of them also. And when you're using the cloud, you're using a shared platform and you're sharing computers with other companies and other people. So there can be, or there will be, performance issues because you don't control the infrastructure. And you also have to take care of security and data protection. And yeah, you need to take care of this cloud thing. Containers, that's also gained a lot of momentum in the last years. So all the thing around Docker and Kubernetes, you also can do local deployments with Docker on your laptop. And of course, we are talking about bringing Docker in or using Docker in our testing, development, and production lifecycle. You have a lot of benefits with it. So it's focused on microservice architecture. So we are not there in the moment. We're talking about how and when and how we'll implement it. But in our opinion, it doesn't make sense to split every application into that kind of small parts that you have a good use of Docker. So you need to take care of that. What's one benefit is that if you're developing with Docker on your local machine, you really can make sure that the same environment goes live, and that's an easy task with Docker to accomplish. It's easier with traditional infrastructure because the Docker container brings everything or has everything in it to be persistent. Yeah, and you can speed up your development and deployment with containers. So, and now over to Tim, scaling development.
Scaling development, what does it mean for us? So, well, one of the core ideas we have is to take over responsibility to our internal people. For sure, we have external partners, 3 of them right now, 1 in the past, which we are working with together. And it's really helpful. So they bring a lot of experience regarding special technologies or whatever it takes. But at the end, we try to build up the knowledge on our side. It's very important. And for me, it's one of the success factors for LIDL e-commerce as well, to keep technology on our side and to get people trained on these technologies. Okay? So we scale up from 2012 to 2017 from 2 developers to 16 right now, only developers, and we have a lot of other people supporting them. So for example, 4 guys who are doing the QA every day, who are doing the requirements, another 5 or 6 people right now, and even some guys who take care of the support issues. So the daily work, the operations, that the application is still running, that every customer request went fine and things like this. So overall, the team which is responsible for the shop system, which means LIDL.de and LIDL-Shop.nl, for example, is up to 30 people. We also have 6 guys from the university, people like you, who are doing an internship or, well, who are working for us on an hourly basis. So, well, this is up to 20%. And the most important thing for me is to train those people, yeah? Because we are interested in someone who is at the end, in a long term, working together with us and doing the right things. Regarding the applications, this is something where we scale up from 1 application in 2012 to up to 40 applications right now. Why is it that much? So at the end, not every one of these applications has 1 million lines of codes, for sure. We also have a lot of smaller applications which are developed within 2-3 man days, for example, but we are still maintaining them, and we have to take care of everything which is related to security or operations, for example. But there are also some mid-sized applications with, well, 200 to 500 man days we spend on it, and this is quite a lot. So think about your applications and what you've done during your studies right now. And at the end, we are supporting it further. So we have to fix bugs, we have to improve it based on business department requests, and we try to do it with internal people. Well, this is also something which was mentioned by the colleagues from Kaufland. Yeah? It's not possible to take care of every new technology which is outside. So, well, our focus is on Java technology. Java, JavaScript, things which are close to, like Scala, for example. This is what we take care of. But we also have things like Ruby or whatever. We just try to, well, try it out. Maybe it's the best thing, the best technology for one of our use cases. Let's try it out and try to find out if we can work with it. But at the end, in the long term, there are only a few which have to be proven that we can handle it at the end and that they are doing things right. Performance matters, something which is also mentioned by Andreas. We take care of performance. So today, it's very common to say, okay, just put another application server in there. Well, scale it from 2 to 3 application servers, from 3 to 4, and well, at the end, you will end up with, what's the maximum for hardware? 64 application nodes, for example. Yeah? That's not our interest. We try to get the most out of our applications and, well, at least the most of the infrastructure which is provided by our colleagues. That's why we optimize. And we optimize on different levels. Content delivery networks, CDNs, were also mentioned by Andreas, but there are some other technologies you can use. For example, the Hcache, just to make your application respond faster, because all the requests do not end up in the database, but were handled by the application layer in between. Yeah? This makes sense. It's much faster to respond on these requests out of the memory than to connect to a database and, well, send the query again. Varnish, for example, is also one interesting technology. Maybe Andreas can provide some insights here. It's called an HTTP accelerator. Have you ever heard of this? Well, at least the Kaufland guys should raise their hands. Okay? Well, so it's a really nice application which is put in front of your web server, and it just tries to cache as many requests as possible. You have to configure it. It's not that easy because it's not a key value configuration. Well, it's more C, C++ style of coding which needs to be done. But why? Well, the configuration is compiled, and then it's used from the application. Well,
yeah, and it's basically serving your static files and the stuff you configured in out of its memory, so it's a lot faster than getting to a Tomcat or to another application container and get the data out. So, and it helps us a lot. So even if in the case where we take 90% of the traffic in the data center, we get another 60 to 70% of caching ratio in Varnish, and this helps a lot in scaling or in not scaling the application servers with growing traffic. So yeah, we make good use of Varnish in a lot of projects, not only the online shops.
So I think the 12 million customer or unique visitors a month were for LIDL, right?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think? How many application servers do we need for this? Any ideas? Just guess. 5, 10, 1, 20? Any ideas? Okay, 2. And well, for us, or for me at least, it was really impressive that we can handle it with only 2 application servers. Well, we try to use the most frequently used technology, popular technology, which is there outside. So we're talking about frameworks. If we talk about database connections, we are talking about Hibernate, for example. Well, I think this is something which is very obviously we'll stumble across it once you try to develop software in Java. But we try to give something back. Well, the Kaufland colleagues are one step further. They already did it, as far as I know. They have a GitHub account where they push some of their code to. But, well, even on the LIDL side, we are working on this. Well, this is about development workflows and technology we use. I think Git is obviously. So most of you, if you once started developing software, this is one application, one thing where we stumble across. But what about the other things? What about building your application? I'm pretty sure every one of you can do this manually. But have you done this automatically? Are you familiar with Hudson or Jenkins, for example? Well, OK. So this is something which we try to use, and we try to get the most out of it. We are talking about testing. Selenium is one of the most common frameworks which is out there. So if you talk about UI, front-end, storefront testing, well, you will end up with Selenium, I'm pretty sure. This is something we use, and we try to integrate it in the way we are building software. From the very early beginning, well, handle your code, build your application, and test it automatically. And at the end, well, together with you guys from the infrastructure team, deploy it. For sure, we start with dev test environment first, and then we'll end up with a QA environment, with a final sanity check, maybe. But even for production, why not? You have to trust the processes you have established in the past. Is this something you have done before? In some of your projects, maybe? Well, someone is saying, OK, so it's really interesting. Most of the students I had in interviews in the last 3 or 4 years, they have never done it. They heard all about it on a theoretical level, but they've never done it in practice. OK? Well, we have to be more attractive for developers. Yeah? This is also a reason why we are here. Sorry for that, but that's it. Yeah? We want to talk about what we are doing. We are proud of it. And I think we are doing really great things. And well, to be honest, even on our side, we can improve. And we try to do this every day. At the end, we have accepted one fact. We cannot attract all the developers, all the IT people we need in this area. So, well, Connect IT is doing really a good job, but until this will really fit our needs, it will take 5 or 10 more years. So that's why we decided to go to other cities as well. And well, 2 years ago, there was only one city in Germany where you can go to. It was Berlin. So we set up a location in Berlin, put in some developers, some other technical guys, and now, well, it's a second location. We are doing the same in Speyer right now, which is, well, close to Neckarsulm, but at the end, we try to attract people from Karlsruhe, from Mannheim, whatever it takes. And this is also a chance for all the people who are working in Neckarsulm, but because we have to spread the knowledge from here to other locations. And it's not always the best idea to do it via telephone or web session. Well, to work with external partners is about getting some expert knowledge, as I mentioned before. Well, for example, regarding database technologies, how to optimize it, regarding security, performance, whatever it takes. I'm pretty sure that they will find some guys in your team, in our teams, which are very experienced in this. But it's also a good idea to have someone else who's challenging this every time, again and again and again. Yeah? So it's about getting better. And external partners really have influence on that. Because for them, it's much easier to bring the experience from other projects into our projects. We try to spread our development. As I mentioned before, Speyer and Berlin are only 2 locations we are already working on. But we talk about other locations. And it's not only about locations in Germany. I cannot promise anything right now, but I'm pretty sure that we will end up with 2 or 3 more locations within the next 2 or 3 years. What about our future? Well, there is one thing which is mentioned from our top management quite often these days. It's about getting #1 online discounter in Europe. This is our goal. And this is what we are working for every day. As you can see here on the right side, maybe I have to explain it. So, well, we are not the biggest retailer right now. We are ranked 2nd. If you combine it with Kaufland, maybe we're first, I'm not sure. But regarding this, we are 2nd right now. But the most important thing for me regarding this graphic is the number on the right side. This is about the share of e-commerce in this organization. At 0.41% for Lidl. So more than 99% of our share is done by brick-and-mortar business nowadays. Well, this values are from 2014, but nevertheless, maybe it's now 0.6, 0.8%. Nevertheless, doesn't matter. So at the end, we have to catch up. From an e-commerce perspective, it's really a long way which is in front of us. Okay? Regarding technology, well, for sure, we're talking about microservices. As Andreas mentioned, okay, from an infrastructure perspective, they are prepared to do it. From an application perspective, well, I'm not sure if I really want to have microservices. We can discuss about this hours and hours, and the guys from Kaufland are also laughing. So, well, for sure, this might be an interesting solution for some tasks, but not for all of them, okay? And not all of your frameworks will support it. We are talking about the doubling of the IT department. So today, we are 120 people in the IT, but we want to be 240, 250. Well, based on our top management, within the next 10 or 12 months. That's not really possible, or it's hard to do it, let's call it that way. But we are working on this, so we try to get better and better, because at the end, it's not only about doubling the IT department, it's about getting more and more output from those people. And not by putting more and more hours on top, yeah? So just to make this clear. Okay? It's about getting better in our processes and the technologies we use and all the other things. Okay. That's from our side. So thanks for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free. So my understanding of the question is, is there a way to train people for the DevOps approach, especially for continuous integration, continuous development, right? Okay. Well, at the end, from my perspective, from, let's call it middle management perspective, you have to take care of all the factors surrounding the people. So is it really possible to follow this approach regarding the processes? So what do we expect? Do we have a timeline for things or whatever? So just to to make clear for the people what is the expectation from the management perspective. This is helpful to get the attention of the people to doing the right things. Well, and one of the things which is very important for us is about teaching processes. So there's also one experienced guy, a senior developer or whoever, who takes care of all the junior people and who's explaining how they have to do stuff. But not only in a front-to-front session, like, well, a classroom training or something like this, more the learning by doing approach. So, for example, if you're doing deployments for our applications, then we have 2 or 3 people who are responsible for one application deployment. Well, it's more than they really need. But at the end, it's always one guy, which is more senior, one junior guy, for example, or, well, we try to iterate through the team. So people who are responsible for the deployment A will also be responsible for B, but there will be some additional people to give knowledge from one deployment to the next. And this is something which is also important if you talk about the continuous integration, continuous development approach. So you are iterating through the whole process, and you have to improve it every time. And it's not only about the senior guys. There might be also some good ideas from junior people who just attend to this process and try to make it better and better. Well, I'm not sure if this is 100% an answer to your question, but that's how we're doing it. Okay? Some other questions? Well, let's start over there, sorry.
The question was if we have taken a look at the serverless framework. When you're talking about microservices, serverless is a framework where you can basically describe your cloud infrastructure with YAML files. And it helps you in getting an overview over all that cloud technologies available online. So when you're looking at AWS technology stack, I think there are more than 150, 200 different services now online. And when you're just trying to get started, it's really complicated to get a first impression of what exact service you need for your application, and serverless helps with that. So, of course, we have taken a look at it, but in the moment we are not doing anything in the cloud, and we'll see how that continues. So, basically, 2 of the major cloud providers are next to us in our data centers in Frankfurt, so we could get a direct line to them. That would be great. But in the moment, we don't have the need for them because we can scale with our infrastructure quite well in the moment.
There's one thing to mention regarding cloud services and all the cloud architecture. We are very careful regarding our data. So how we spread it, where to spread it, and how it can be used by applications. So, well, this is really an important point of view. And we try to cover it. We try to do our best to make our data secure, customer data especially, but also other product data, for example. And that's why we are very, 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 well, we are very careful to spread our data into these areas. Okay? Some other questions? So there was one from your side? Okay. Okay, so the question is, what is the most important attribute, I would say that way, for students or guys who want to hire at LIDL e-commerce? So, well, I think we have 2 opinions. So my opinion is you have to be curious. You have to be very nervous about your working day. So getting there, getting the discussions with all your colleagues, well, get into technical details, things like this. Because, well, all the technology you already knew right now might fit to our needs or might not, but that's not the question, because if you have once developed software in C or C++, I'm pretty sure we can train you on Java as well. But the attitude, this is the most important thing. This is something I cannot change, or I can try to do it, but, well, it's something for a long-term discussion, and it's not always the best idea to do it. Okay?
Yeah, what do I want to add? From my side, grades aren't that important, so my grades weren't that good either. So I'm not sure that they'll help in developing infrastructure or in developing software. So what's more important for me is that you have a passion for what you want to do. And so if I have an application for a guy who wants to work in the data center and never broke his computer or fixed it by himself or worked at it, so this would be a won't go. And I think you have to have a passion for what you want to do, and that's what we try to find out. And what's also very important is that you have a social fit into the team. And I think that's what also the Kaufland colleague mentioned before. That's way more important because all the skills you can learn from the colleagues, and yeah, that's it. Okay?
I think passion is the right answer.
So any more questions?
So
Okay.
well, we are still here, so if you have any questions afterwards, just feel free to join us at the LIDL stand, okay? Thanks.
Thanks for your attention.
A big thank you for Andreas Lehr and Tim Döttner.